Aloha, I'm Representative Kymberly Pine, and I'm so proud to be your Republican floor leader in the House of Representatives. Today we have a great show lined up for you today, and I have two of our awesome freshmen joining us here today from Maui, Representative George Fontaine, and from Moanaloa and a whole other places in Lister area is Representative Johanson. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah,
so it was all revealed now. Governor Abercrombie did his first State of the State address, and what'd you think of it?
Aaron?
Well, I think, I was glad to hear his calls for us to all work together. These are all, shared problems that we have to fix together, and I think that was very heartening. And I think he did go out of his way to acknowledge, our particular caucus, and I appreciated that. I also appreciated that he emphasized themes of shared sacrifice. Certainly with an $800 million budget deficit, that's going to be a theme throughout our session and figuring out how to work through those problems. And I think ultimately what we're eager to see as legislators is just the details. It's all in the details and all in the specific proposals, and I found myself eagerly sort of awaiting some of those details to be able to analyze and dive into.
So how about you, George?
The governor really shows his experience when he speaks or he gives a speech. In the beginning part, he tried to make it personal. I don't think I've ever heard a State of the State address quite like that one that we heard. It was very personal in the beginning, and then he started getting into talking about things about, and I agree with you, Aaron, on some of the issues of having to work together, that we all need to try to fix this problem. We're anxious to see the budget, and it's not here, and as of this recording, it is not in front of us, and so we have nothing to look at. So we're kind of looking at the whole forest and not the trees, and we need to be looking at the trees. I'm a little concerned about his ideas of taxing pensioners now. As a retiree from the police department, that really kind of hits home for me personally. What people have to understand is that when I joined the police department in 1980, my pay was paltry. I made $1,138 a month gross.
Wow.
And
how many kids do you have?
well, at the time I was single.
Okay.
I was 20 years old, and my rent in my apartment was $450, and I drove around a Datsun B210 with rust holes, and I kept the hood down with a coat hanger, and I took a night job and working security so that at the Royal Lahaina Resort, so that I have access to the night cleaner food so that I could eat once a day. It was a struggle in the police department back then, but what was promised to me was like this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. If I stuck it out for a minimum of 25 years, I would have free medical for life. I would have my retirement wouldn't be taxed, medical, etc. And so, as time went on, our pay became in parity with the private sector, still well below the pay for mainland law enforcement.
Isn't it like double some areas? Like Alaska, I heard you can.
Yeah, I mean, people were making
huge
amounts of money, but hey, it's the price of living in paradise. And so, then the benefits changed in 1996, where the medical and some other things were kind of tweaked, which was fair because now the pay was better and all that. But like me and other pensioners who had worked and put in their time way back when, worked for salaries that were well below what their counterparts were making, especially teachers, and then now to say we're going to renege on that deal, I don't think it's right. I think we need to look at other ways in which we're going to save money. And I think cutting the size of government, the scope of government, privatizing more services, that's where we should be looking at to close the budget gap, and not doing it on the backs of pensioners. The other area that I wasn't happy with was the increase in tax on alcohol and soda that he spoke about. And I just feel like this is a government intrusion where they're coming in and we're legislating something because of my personal choices. If I want to drink a soda, I should be able to drink a soda. And so using the excuses, well, we're all getting fat, so we want you to cut back on soda use, so we're going to tax it so that you drink less soda. It's not something that I'm very thrilled about either. So those are just a couple of points that kind of bothered me a little bit about what he said. But overall, I think I like the idea, again, of him saying he wants to work together with us and try to come up with some good legislation to help the people of Hawaii. And frankly, that's the reason why we're all here, right?
He also said something really surprising, but it was a very short comment, and he said it really fast, so a lot of people didn't pick up on it. And he talked about basically cutting wages without furloughs, or having furloughs, or not having furloughs, but having a lower cost for employees. And so that's something that's starting to get picked up when people reread his speech online, or they listen to it again. So a lot of the public worker unions today are very shocked. They thought that he was going to keep them as a sacred cow, and so I think that's what has made some conservatives respect him a little bit more, that look, he is including pay wage cuts of some sort, or he's looking at the size of government. But sometimes rhetoric is just rhetoric, and it's yet to be seen how that really is implemented. It's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between the already divided Democrats in the House of Representatives, and then the House and Senate dynamic that's always very tense, to see how they work with this governor. Republicans are excited. We have an opportunity to really make a difference here, as we always have. And it seems like he'll be open to a lot of ideas, as he's explained some of it in some of the cuts that he's proposing in some departments. What are some other issues that you think that Republicans can come together with him on in the state legislature?
I think there's actually quite a bit of common ground, and some of that is probably necessitated by the budgetary times that we're in. But everybody recognizes that there have to be some cost savings here and there, and that again, he did mention that, and those are not easy things to talk about. But how we do that is again an issue. But I think everybody recognizes, because we have to, and because we have to balance the budget, it's both a legislative as well as an executive branch reality. I do hope that he maintains his position on not raising the general excise tax, and I think that's something that we would wholeheartedly support him on. And I think this recognition of wanting to grow the economy, there's going to be a lot of common ground there as well for all of us, because we're all on this ship together. And actually, that was a metaphor that he used a lot, just sort of this canoe that we're all in, and I think that's true. And so I think budgetary and economic realities will dictate a good partnership and sort of a consensus on a lot of those fiscal issues.
Well, we finally have a Speaker of the House after months of waiting and hoping that we could get this resolved in a quicker manner. And so we finally have our committees. Some of us had to choose committees within 5 minutes, right, before we went onto the House floor. So we had to choose 2 years of a life in 5 minutes. Personally, that was a little unacceptable, since they took 2.5 months to choose a speaker, but we always prevail in the end, right? We have some really good committees. We have more committees than we've ever had before, so we're very excited about that. And George, tell me what committees you are on.
I have labor, transportation, public safety, judiciary, and education.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you're almost the same committees except one?
All the same, except instead of judiciary, I have higher education.
Great. Now, what are some of your personal bills that you're hoping to propose this legislative session, your first time around?
I do have one that I'm very excited about, because I think it particularly fits the times, and it's a sunset review. It's the proposing of a sunset review commission, which is half legislative in makeup, meaning it's half of the membership of this review commission are elected officials, and half of them are members of the public. And essentially, what other states have done through a sunset review commission is figure out which regulatory structures and regulations are simply out of date and antiquated, and what's inhibiting their modern economy from progressing. And what this commission does is frequently make recommendations to the legislature. So what the implementation of this particular commission would do is just put in statute this regular sort of pipeline, if you will, of ideas and recommendations that can work in concert with the auditor, in concert with our own oversight and investigative powers as the legislative branch. But it constantly furnishes us as legislators with ideas of, how to make government more efficient, how to make it more address its core services and its missions. And that's something I read about actually in a business publication about 1.5 years ago, and what this particular writer attributed to a lot of capital and business moving into the states that were either more equipped to modernize their government, or at least more open to to even that process that just made for a better business climate. So that's one thing that I'll be very strongly advocating.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. I hope. Are you already working with the education chairs on that issue?
I've mentioned it, but I think it is broadly applicable to all of the government folks. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
How about you, George? What are some of your important bills?
I've mentioned one of them before on one of the shows. I submitted one which actually is getting bipartisan support, meaning that Democrats as well as Republicans are signing it, and that's my add-on to the tax credits for consumers who purchase LED lighting as well as the compact fluorescents. And as I've mentioned on shows before, that LED lighting is so far superior than the compact fluorescent because it doesn't contain any mercury. It's good for the environment. They last like 10 times as long as a compact fluorescent does. The color rendition is phenomenal. It's on a scale of 100, it's 98 compared to 30 or 40 on a compact fluorescent. So you get better lighting. It uses less energy than a compact fluorescent. A 75-watt floodlight replacement uses 18 watts. So it's considerable savings. I have it in my home. But the problem with the bulbs is that they're expensive. The good quality ones are. And so hopefully this will entice people to really take a look at the technology, and hopefully if we get more consumers interested in it, the prices will start to come down, hopefully. But I'm excited about that, and I've got some crime bills that I put through. I'm trying to get a version of Jessica's Law. And for those of you in the audience who are not familiar with what Jessica's Law is basically it's mandatory sentencing for people who are convicted of sexually assaulting children. And it's something that the other states in the union have, but we do not have a version of Jessica's Law here in the state of Hawaii. And we need to lock these people up. Somebody who goes out and sexually assaults a little girl or a little boy should not be with us, and they should go away for a very long time. And if they do get out after that period of time and they commit again, my feeling is that they should spend the rest of their life in prison, because obviously this is something that they're wired to do. And you're talking about children as victims of these crimes, and it's horrible. So I'm really advocating to try to see if we can get that. Unfortunately, I'm not getting much interest from the Democrats because they don't like mandatory sentencing type of laws. Mm-hmm. But I'm putting it out there, folks. If you are interested in this kind of legislation to lock up really bad people, I'm your advocate and I'm here for you, and I'll do what I can to try to see if we can get some interest in these things.